Time to first I will meditate for 5 minutes. Let's do it. It's 4:11. Let's start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya Allah, please help me.
And that means this L is -2. So if I say my string -2, I will actually get back that L. And then if I keep going backwards in the string, I'll get back that R, which is right before the L. So I will get back this R right there. So you can use both positive index positions and negative index positions to grab elements or characters from the string. And that's really useful again because oftentimes you'll have a variable string, maybe it's someone's name, and you don't know how big that name is, but for whatever reason you want to grab the last letter of their name, then you can always just use -1 and you know that's the last letter of the string. Okay, let's go ahead and continue to discuss slicing. So slicing is a little more complicated because we're grabbing a subsection of the string. So that's more than one character typically. Let's review our string. Oops, my string here is hello world. And I'm going to redefine my string, just so this is a little easier to follow, as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So just kind of a string of the alphabet there. We'll redefine it. And now I have this string of the alphabet. So let's imagine that we wanted to grab a subsection of a string that started at a particular index and then went all the way to the end. Well, the way we could do that is we would say my string, square bracket notation, and then we would say the starting index, let's imagine we want to start at the letter C and then go all the way to the end. So C is at index 2 because it's 0, 1, 2. So what I do is I pass in 2, and if I just do that, it gives me back the letter C. But if I want from C all the way to the end, I can say colon, and that indicates starting at index 2, colon, go all the way to the end, and there we have CD all the way to K. Okay, now let's imagine kind of an opposite situation where I want to grab everything up to a particular index. Then I could say my string, colon, and let's say I wanted to grab A, B, and C. So starting at the very beginning, go ahead and grab all the way up to essentially letter D here.
या अल्लाह मदद नेगेटिव नहीं रहूँगा अब मैं क्योंकि I've started. Starting is the hardest part. The rest of the parts I know. मेरा luck. It is the luckiest thing one can do these days is study because you never run out of luck if you study. Everything is
3
there
there.
on the internet.
Then I
You
pass
can't
in
give up.
an
Everything is
A0
provided.
because indexing starts at 0, and that allows me to return that first character, H. Let's try to grab another character. Let's say we want to grab R. So let's count this out. My string, and we want to count from 0, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice the space counts. 6, 7, 8. So if I pass an 8 there, it should return R. Perfect. So again, this is known as indexing. Now let's imagine we wanted to grab this letter L. Well, there's two ways I could actually do this. I could say my string at 9, because that's right after that R. The other way I could do it is using the reverse indexing we previously mentioned. So starting at 0 from H, I can go backwards in the string so that D is -1, and that means this L is -2. So if I say my string -2, I will actually get back that L. And then if I keep going backwards in the string, I'll get back that R, which is right before the L. So I will get back this R right there. So you can use both positive index positions and negative index positions to grab elements or characters from the string. And that's really useful again because oftentimes you'll have a variable string, maybe it's someone's name, and you don't know how big that name is, but for whatever reason you want to grab the last letter of their name, then you can always just use -1 and you know that's the last letter of the string. Okay, let's go ahead and continue to discuss slicing. So slicing is a little more complicated because we're grabbing a subsection of the string. So that's more than one character typically. Let's review our string. Oops, my string here is hello world. And I'm going to redefine my string, just so this is a little easier to follow, as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So just kind of a string of the alphabet there. We'll redefine it. And now I have this string of the alphabet. So let's imagine that we wanted to grab a subsection of a string that started at a particular index and then went all the way to the end.
Two.
Well, the way we could do that is we would say my string, square bracket notation, and then we would say the starting index. Let's imagine we want to start at the letter C and then go all the way to the end. So C all the way to the end, I can say colon, and that indicates starting at
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
index 2, colon, go all the way to the end, and there we have CD all the way to K. Okay, now let's imagine kind of an opposite situation where I want to grab everything up to a particular index. Then I could say my string, colon, and let's say I wanted to grab A, B, and C. So starting at the very beginning, go ahead and grab all the way up to essentially letter D here. So we'll say 0, 1, 2, 3, pass in 3 there, and then we run this, and we get back A, B, C. Now this is sometimes confusing for students because if we check out my string, technically we have the D at index position 3 because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. What you should note here is that the stop index, this term right here for 3, which only returns back A, B, C, that stop index is basically saying go up to, but not including that index position. So go up to the letter D, but don't include it, which essentially says A, B, C.
1, 2. Okay.
So keep that in mind. As you're kind of playing around with slice notation. This stop is up to, but not including. Okay, let's combine these two ideas of a starting index and a stop index by trying to grab a subsection of string that's in the middle. For example, let's try to grab D, E, F from the middle of the string. The way we can do that is we say my string, open square brackets,
0, 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 5. 3, colon, 6.
and then we start off with our starting index position. In this case, it's at letter D, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3. Then we say colon, and then it's going to go up to the index
6.
position of 1, E, and
I'm getting so emotional, man. I thought my life is gone, like my day is going to be sad, but I finally studied, and now I know this is the thing that gives me actually, it makes me feel so important, man. I feel so less important and so insecure without studying. I can't live without this. I love this. I love this.
C,
Sorry,
these two letters, BC.
too much.
So the way we can do that is we'll type out my string, open and close square brackets. Our starting index position is at 0, 1 for B, colon, and then it looks like we want to go up to but not including D, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3. We'll run this, and there we have BC. And I would encourage you to try try to grab a subsection. So choose the subsection of the string and then see if you can grab it. You can go ahead and pause the video and try that out. Okay, to end our discussion, let's quickly discuss step size. Let's imagine that I wanted to grab everything from the beginning of the string all the way to the end. Well, technically, that's just the string itself, but I could also use colon notation for this. I could say colon colon, and that basically says from all the way to the beginning, go all the way to the end. Now, you don't often see this because you might as well just call
colon colon.
the string itself, but this is technically valid syntax. The reason you might see something like this is if someone wanted to specify the third parameter, and that is the step size. So right now we're saying go all the way from the beginning to the end in a step size of 1, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's the default step size of 1. However, I can change that by providing a number such as 2, and that says go in jumps of 2. So from A, go to C, to E, to G, to I, to K. So if I run this, I get back A, C, E, G, I, K. Because I'm jumping in a step size of 2. We can increase this to be a step size of 3, and then we'll get from A, jump to D, jump to G, jump to J, and then there's no more letters to jump to because we're jumping in a larger step size. So that's how step size works, and you can combine this with a start and stop as well. So we could say something like starting from index 2, go up to but not including index 7 and a step size of 2, and we get back C, E, G. So C, then jump to E, then jump to G. So notice how this all works in combination. You have a start, a stop, and then a step size. Something that you may commonly see is using a clever step size trick to reverse a string. And what you can do is say my string, and then say from all the way to the beginning, all the way to the end, take a step size of -1. And what that does is it actually reverses your string, because you're saying from all the way to the beginning to all the way to the end, go and take a backward step, which is then K, J, I, all the way to the end. So this is kind of a little Python trick. Often in interviews, people ask you to reverse a string, and they kind of get annoyed by Pythonistas because they quickly just do this nice kind of slick one-liner instead of doing a for loop. But I just want you to be aware of that. Typically in our code, we won't really be using this too much because it's more of a trick, but again, a very useful one at that. Okay, so that's it for slicing and indexing. Coming up next, we're going to discuss a little bit about some useful string properties. We'll see you there. In this lecture, we're going to to finish off our discussion about strings by talking about string properties and string methods. Let's jump to a notebook and get started. The first thing we're going to discuss is the immutability of strings. And immutability, it stems from the word mutate, basically means immutate, or you cannot mutate or cannot change. I'm going to show you an example of this. Let's create a variable called name and set it equal to Sam. Now let's imagine we want to change this name to Pam. So change the S for a P. Well, you may think that you would do something like this. Say name, index at 0, and then just set it equal to P. Now for strings, unfortunately, you can't do this. If you try to run this code, you'll get an error because string
Immutability.
strings are immutable, meaning a string object or str object doesn't support item assignment. So you can't grab one of these characters, one of these elements in the string, and then try to reassign it this way. Strings just don't work that way in Python. Later on, we'll learn about other doesn't support item assignment. Are immutable, meaning a string object or str object doesn't support item assignment. So you can't grab one of these characters, one of these elements in the string, and then try to reassign it this way. Strings just don't work that way in Python. Later on, we'll learn about other data types that do support item assignment. All this means is that if we do want to reassign this S to be a P, we basically have to create a new string. And we can do that with concatenation, that is kind of merging two strings together. So I'm going to comment this out, and to create a comment, you just put a hashtag in front of it, and if you run this, you won't get anything out. So basically anything with a hashtag is just commented code that together. So I'm going to comment this out, and to create a comment, you just put a hashtag.
String count, yeah, string. I'm getting too emotional right now. I gotta meditate after some time. Once I finish studying, I'll meditate. Strings are used in Python. to record text information such as names. Strings are usually a, actually a sequence, which basically means Python keeps track of every element in the string as a sequence. For example, Python understands the string hello to be a sequence of letters in a specific order. This means we will be able to use indexing to grab particular letters like the first letter or the last letter. This idea of sequence is an important one in Python. We will touch upon it later on in the future. Okay, आगे चलते हैं. Creating a string. It has got different ways. First is creation of a string. Hello. This is also a string built with double quotes. I'm using single quotes because this will create an error. Now I'm ready to use the single quotes inside a string. Printing a string. Hello world. Hello world 1. Hello world 2. Print. Hello world 1. Hello world 2. Print use backslash n to print a news line. See what I mean? Okay. To print a new line. See what I mean? Python keeps track of, for example, string hello, creating a string.
Hashtag in front of it, and if you run this, you won't get anything out. So basically anything with a hashtag is just commented code that doesn't get run. Let's explore this example of trying to create the string Pam using what we already have about name. So the first thing I want to do is try to grab A and M. So let's use the slice notation that we learned about earlier. We're going to start at index 1 and then go all the way to the end. So let's check that. Okay, so that's AM, perfect. One of a hashtag is just commented code that doesn't get run. Let's explore this example of trying to create the string Pam using what we already have about name.
Of immutability. Strings are immutable. Immutable means they cannot be changed.
Strings are immutable, meaning a string object or str object doesn't support item assignment. So you can't grab one of these characters, one of these elements in the string, and then try to reassign it this way. Strings just don't work that way in Python. Later on, we'll learn about other data types that do support item assignment. All this means is that if we do want to reassign this S to be a P, we basically have to create a new string. And we can do that with concatenation, that is kind of merging two strings together. So I'm going to comment this out, and to create a comment, you just put a hashtag in front of it. And if you we're going to start at index 1 and then go all the way to the end. So let's check that. Okay, so that's AM.
I'm just gonna change my clothes in a minute. Just a second. Oh, beautiful. Wow.
Perfect. So we'll assign this to something like last letters is equal to name 1
कहाँ पहुँचे हम?
all the way to. Okay, so that's AM, perfect. So we'll assign this to something like last letters is equal to name autocomplete here. It says AM. And now what I can do is I can concatenate P to last letters. And the way you do that is with the plus sign. So we can say P plus
Last letter.
last letters, and then we get Pam. So this is known as string concatenation. Let's explore a couple more examples. I'm going to say X is equal to hello world, and then I could say X plus it is beautiful outside. And then if I run this, I can see hello world, it is beautiful outside. Something to keep in mind is note that there's no space here because there was no space at the end of world and there's no space at the beginning of it. So what would be nice is if you add a little space there, so when you run this again, hello world, it is beautiful outside. Now if I do this multiple times with a reassignment, so I could say X is equal to X plus it is beautiful outside. Now when I run this, I've redefined X, so I can see now hello world. It is beautiful outside. If I accidentally ran this cell more than one time, I'd add in it is beautiful outside a second time. So if I run this again, notice how my in numbers are going to change right next to the cell. Now it says, hello world, it is beautiful outside, it is beautiful outside. And we could keep doing this, and you keep adding it on. So this is string concatenation, and it allows you to quickly put strings together. There's also multiplication you could do to kind of do multiple string concatenations at once. Let me show you what that looks like. So far we've used a plus sign to kind of concatenate two strings together or merge them together. But if you had the letter equal to Z and you quickly wanted 10 Z's, what you could do is say letter times 10. this, and you keep adding it on. So this is string concatenation, and it allows you to quickly put strings together. There's also multiplication you could do to kind of do multiple string concatenations at once. Let me show you what that looks like. So far we've used a plus sign to kind of concatenate two strings together or merge them together. But if you had the letter equal to z, and you quickly wanted 10 z's, what you could do is say letter times 10, and there you could see essentially someone sleeping here, z, 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 10 times. So that's using multiplication with letters, and then that's using a plus sign with letters. Something to keep in mind when you're performing string concatenation or string multiplication is that you're going to get errors if you try to concatenate a number with a string. I want to show you what I mean by that. Imagine we're doing 2 plus 3. If we run this, we get 5. That makes sense. If we do 2, the string 2 plus the string 3, now that they're strings, we're doing 2 plus 3. If we run this, we get 5. That makes sense. If we do 2, the string 2 plus the string 3, now that they're strings, it's not going to add them together. Instead, it's going to perform concatenation. So here now we get back the string 23. And this is a callback to dynamic typing, where we had to be really careful about the data types. So keep this sort of problem in mind, that your user may end up putting in strings, and then later on in your code, if you start adding them together, you may end up with an unexpected result, like 23 instead of 5. So this is a really prime example of both the good and bad of Python's ability to be very flexible. So it's very flexible, meaning you're not getting an error here, but maybe it's a little too flexible. Let's continue on by discussing some built-in string methods. So objects in Python usually have built-in methods, and these methods themselves are essentially functions that are inside the object. And later on, we're going to learn how to create our own functions and our own methods. For right now, let's go over just a few useful methods. I'm going to create a new string. Let's call it x, and say it's hello world. And if I hit X, dot, and then hit tab, I should see this list pop out in the Jupyter Notebook. And this is a list of all the attributes and methods that are available on this string object. Now again, make sure you've already defined X, otherwise you won't see anything. So make sure you ran that cell that says X hello world, and then in a new cell say X dot, hit tab, and you should see this list. So as you can see, there's tons of methods here, and we're not going to go over all of them right now. We're just going to go over the most useful ones that you'll be using later on in this course. So to quickly uppercase everything in a string, you can say dot upper, open and close parentheses, and it will uppercase everything in the string. Keep in mind, this method is not in place. That is to say, it doesn't actually affect the original string. If you did want it to affect the original string, you'd have to reassign it. You'd have to do something like x is equal to the upper version case of x. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to run that right now because I want the original x string. And if you accidentally did a reassignment, you can always just say x is equal to hello world again. All right, so we have the upper method. Something that's really common for beginners as a mistake to make is that they accidentally just do upper and they forget those open and close parentheses. And if you run this, it'll just say, hey, this is a function, this dot upper. And basically what Python is saying is, oh, you haven't actually executed this method or function yet. Instead, you just asked me what it was. So when you call it without open and close parentheses and you get something that looks like this back, it means that you haven't actually executed that method or function to occur. Instead, you just kind of asked Python, hey, what is this? So because there's an upper method, there's also a lower method, which is going to lowercase every letter. Notice here now H and W are lowercased. Then there's also the split method, and the split method allows you to quickly create a list off of a string. So here we can say we have hello and world. Now we haven't really discussed lists yet, so they are coming up. So all I want you to think about right now is that if I use .split, it will split a string based on the white space or based on the letter you pass in. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I will say X is equal to, hi, this is a string. Run that. And then if I say x.split, I get back everything split by the white space. So I get, hi, this is a string, nicely organized in a list. However, I could pass in any sequence of characters that I want to split on. So by default, split will split on the white space. But I could actually split it on any letter I want. So now it's going to split on the I's. So if I run this, we should get an interesting result. And here it's essentially removed all the I's because it's splitting on them. And now the white space is included. So I get H, and because any organ, I get Okay, coming up next, what we're going to talk about is string formatting for printing. There's a lot of useful methods you can use to quickly print out other objects along with your strings. So far, we've only learned how to use print as a basic function where we say print hello, but there's a lot more power to the print function that we haven't actually seen yet, as well as the .format method. So let's go ahead and cover that in the next lecture. We'll see you there.
बिस्मिल्लाह या अल्लाह। या अल्लाह, कुछ गलतियां हुई होंगी मेरे से आज पढ़ते वक्त में, वो माफ कर दे। सो अभी हुआ है 4:57, तो पहले नमाज पढ़ते हैं जल्दी जल्दी। नमाज का ब्रेक लेता हूँ 5 मिनट का। 5 मिनट से ज्यादा नहीं लग सकते इसमें, क्योंकि सिर्फ 4 रकात है। 46 मिनट्स हो गए, 1 घंटा और 46 मिनट्स हो गए, 1 घंटा और 14 मिनट्स बचे, तो 5 मिनट का ब्रेक लेंगे। लेकिन स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होती है ब्रेक की? ठीक है, ब्रेक की स्ट्रैटेजी होती है कि जो डिस्ट्रैक्शन है उससे हमें बॉडी को रेस्ट देना है, और जो डिस्ट्रैक्शन है उससे दूर होना है। तो मेरे हिसाब से बेस्ट तरीका है मेडिटेशन। जैसे इस वक्त बैठ जाओ, 5 बज के 1 मिनट है, पहले टाइम लिख लो कितना है। 5 बज के 1 मिनट है। हाँ, ये मैं कई बार कर चुका हूँ ट्राई, इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ ये बहुत अच्छे से वर्क करता है। 5 मिनट के लिए मेडिटेशन करो, क्योंकि वापस आना पढ़ाई में, एक बार इस कमरे से बाहर निकल गया ना मैं, फिर वापस आना पढ़ाई में और ज्यादा मुश्किल हो जाता है। दैट विल ब्रेक योर हार्ट, बिलीव मी, आई नो दैट, यू नो दैट। 5 बज के 2 मिनट हो गए, तो मेडिटेशन करते हैं 5 मिनट। मैं जैसे दुआ मांगने में बिलीव रखता हूँ, आप भी जो चाहे, आप जिसमें बिलीव रखते हैं, मतलब किस तरह से आप मांगेंगे ऊपर वाले से, वो भी आप डिजर्व करते हैं या नहीं, वो भी तो है। अब मैं 5 मिनट तक चुप रहने की कोशिश करूंगा, 6 मिनट तक। बहुत बातें कर ली। अभी 1 ही मिनट हुआ है, अभी 5 मिनट और है। कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि बहुत प्यार से खुद को समझा सको, और प्यार से एक कमिटमेंट की तरह है कि आप प्यार से निभाओ। 3 घंटे निभाओगे। क्या सर? पाँच तीन। 5 बज के 6 हो गए. So guys, मुझे लगता है अब मैं अपने लिए एक और चैलेंज सेट कर रहा हूँ. मैं यहीं पे क्विट कर रहा हूँ. आई फील वेरी बैड क्योंकि मैं कुछ देर लाइट में बैठना चाहता हूँ. लाइट में बाहर, यहाँ थोड़ा सा अंधेरा है. कुछ देर मैं लाइट में बैठूंगा. It will be a very difficult challenge to come back again in this room and sit. आप बैठ गए ना, once you sit, everything is in sync. But coming back here and sitting in front of a book is the that's it. That's it. That's how you win. And it's gonna break my heart. Everything else that I do, I don't think I will find that myself in that. Honestly, I lose my mind in those things. Fitness is important, yes. Even if I get extremely fit, will I get something out of it? Maybe some respect, yeah. But studying, putting 4 hours in gym and 4 hours in studies, I choose 4 hours in studies and 1.5 hour in gym. Okay, so I have a challenge now, but I'm enjoying this studying so much because it's not hard. I've said it again. I'll say, what is studying? जब हम पढ़ते हैं, what happens when we study? It's like a game, like the game that we have in our mobile phones, which has a set of rules. If we follow the rules, we have the game. Every game has simple rules that we understand, that are understandable to the gamer. Exactly similar situation is when we study something, that topic that has been that we study, it has a set of rules. We just have to remember the rules and go on. That is it. It is not hard. It's exactly like a game, but this game brings success. That's the beauty of it. It can heal a broken heart. It can let go of guilt. I was feeling guilty before. I did not study today. I studied only for 1 hour, and I was feeling so guilty. I was feeling so miserable. I can't tell you guys how miserable I was feeling. And once I studied, I feel even close to God, to Allah. I feel more close. I feel I can become a better Muslim if I study. I don't know how is it possible. I've tried everything else, played cricket, driven a car, everything that could have been possibly done. I did not find myself closer to Allah because I lose my sanity if I do that. I don't have control. This brings control over my life. I'm sure it will do with your life as well. So please, guys, like, we have to look at the positivity that comes inside of us after we study. Most importantly, we automatically ignore the people who are going to hurt us, who are going to hurt us. If we give us time, 2 or 3 hours every day, you will find out that Allah will take out, like, remove those negative people from your life automatically. If you put in 3 hours here every day, study 3 hours, those people will automatically distance. You will find them, you won't find them. That's the beauty of it. So I have a challenge, interesting one, that I have to come back and study 1 more hour because I need some light, and after that I'll be back. Thank you so much for